And welcome back to Roberts Rasslin Talk. This is your host, Robert Red, and I'm still joined by my guest, Big Kev, Kevin Lancaster. You still doing good?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking me, Robert.
Okay, well, for the second segment of Roberts Rasslin Talk, we're going to be talking about what has been anticipated for weeks now, the WWE Draft for the Brand Extension. So we're going to start by saying, overall, what did you think of the draft? Did you think this was a good idea for WWE, a bad idea? Just what are your thoughts on the draft in general, and then we'll get into more detailed stuff.
Robert, when it was first announced that the WWE would be doing a draft, I was a little hesitant. I didn't really know what to think, to be honest with you. I didn't really think that the talent roster that they did have was big enough, but apparently it is. They're going to fill up 3 hours on Raw, 2 hours on SmackDown, brought some NXT people up. And leading into the draft, like I said, I didn't really know how to feel, but I'm sure your next question is more in depth about the draft. I was pleased.
Leading into the draft, I've been a proponent against the draft for this week, last several weeks since the announcement. I was happy that SmackDown going live was a good thing because it's going to help the ratings. I mean, even seeing the ratings for SmackDown Live over last week and this week, they had 1 million more viewers this week just for SmackDown Live versus last week. And I know you've talked about on your videos about why you want to watch SmackDown because of the canned audio, the spoilers, and stuff like that. Well, apparently doing it live has helped a lot because, like I said, 1 million more viewers has come. I've always felt the WWE didn't need to use the draft to accomplish what they need to accomplish. They needed to better utilize their talent. So I've been a proponent against the draft. I didn't really like it, but it has happened. So it is what it is, and it's going to happen. So my next question to you, we're going to get into what do you think were the good parts of the draft, or what did you like about the draft? Like, who did you feel like got picked fairly, just stuff like that?
Well, Robert, overall, at the end of the day, I will not know for sure how I feel about the draft until the next couple of weeks on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I'm so used to seeing certain individuals on Raw and SmackDown, not seeing them there on that specific show. Like I said, it's going to take a few weeks for that to drill into my head and realize, oh, such and such is on SmackDown now, which motivates me to want to watch SmackDown, for example. No big shocking moments for me as far as the draft goes. No tag teams. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. I don't think any tag teams were split up. As far as the names, who goes where, I predicted John Cena and AJ Styles would go to SmackDown. I was correct on that. But really, other than that, no really shocking moments.
Well, I mean, some tag teams were split up, but they weren't split up necessarily by the draft. It wasn't like this person got drafted here and this other person got drafted here. Like the Lucha Dragons, they did that on their own before the draft because they knew it was a potential that happened. You kind of had the Wyatt family broken up because you put Braun Strowman on Raw and then Wyatt and Rowan are on SmackDown. So you did kind of have that. And like the club, you had Gallows and Anderson were on Raw, AJ's on SmackDown. So you did kind of see some breaking up of that. But it wasn't necessarily as shocking as predicted. But what was your kind of favorite parts of the draft? Like who did you said you predicted AJ Styles going where? Did you feel like Seth Rollins being the overall pick? Were you happy with that? Just that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, were you happy with stuff like that? Like, what did you think were the good parts of the draft?
Yeah, I was happy with Seth Rollins being the number one pick. Apparently, he's going to be. I think we all saw that Roman was going to be the new face of the WWE. It's his fault that he's not going to be now. That's a whole nother topic. But I was happy with Seth, and really the only thing that I'm happy with Big Cass and Enzo staying on Raw. That was a great moment for me. I was really cautious. You know how Vince McMahon works sometimes, Robert. Splitting up people. I was also happy with him keeping them and New Day, all three members of the New Day. So I was happy with that. So that was a good moment for me. And really the other, not really shocking moment, but happy moment for me that I was pleased with was Finn Balor. Finally, he's been teasing us for a year now on Twitter. He's a troll sometimes, but he's finally moving up to the main roster and going to be on Raw.
Yeah, that was a moment I think a lot of people were excited about. Out because, like you said, Finn Balor's been teasing for the longest time coming up to Raw or SmackDown. So just to see him, I think a lot of people were very happy, and to put him on the flagship show was just a great move. I think that's going to help out Raw. Now, what were you disappointed about with the draft? That you felt let down about the draft?
Well, Robert, the only thing that was really let down is some of the NXT people. I'm not the biggest Nia Jax fan or Mojo Rawley, but I can understand why they chose certain individuals. NXT has to stay relevant. They got to keep some superstars down there. A lot of people are upset, like I mentioned on one of my videos on my channel, is that a lot of people in the internet wrestling community are furious that Bayley was not chosen. But I think that's time will tell when she finally comes up to the main roster. She's going to be a huge asset to the company in general. I've mentioned that I think she's going to be the female John Cena as far as marketing goes. She's a marketer's dream, and she's going to sell a lot of merch. Got to sell that merch, Robert. But anyway, really, like I said, the only downside was the certain individuals from NXT brought up, but it kind of makes sense too.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I was kind of let down, and I'll get into who you felt got snubbed because you kind of mentioned that. But I mean, I was kind of let down that you didn't have a draft of Bayley and stuff like that. But from a business standpoint, it's like you mentioned, you have to keep NXT relevant. It's your hottest brand right now. So if you just had a max exodus of a lot of the great talent from NXT, it would really hurt NXT, which is your bread and butter almost right now, because that's your hottest brand. So to kill it, just to cannibalize it right now to make Raw and SmackDown good, I don't know if that would be a good idea. I mean, business-wise, Raw and SmackDown, you really have to have the focus on, because that is more your bread and butter. I know they're not the hot brand like NXT is, but really that's what you need to have your focus on more than NXT. But NXT is hot right now, that you do want to keep it relevant, so I agree with you on that. Because you really don't have enough establishment eventers really to replace the guys. If you were to take Balor, Joe, and other people and bring them up, NXT wouldn't be worth watching, and that's, to me, that's a lot of the value of the network besides pay-per-views is NXT, especially with the Cruiserweight Classic coming on. To me, that's the value of of the network. But since we mentioned some of the bad things, who did you feel you got snubbed in the draft? I know you mentioned Bayley, but do you feel anybody else got snubbed in the draft that should have been drafted? Maybe like from NXT, or do you feel like maybe someone got put on SmackDown that really should have been on Raw, or do you feel someone got on Raw that should have been on SmackDown?
Heath Slater. The big controversy is Heath Slater. Apparently, he's the only one that did not get drafted, if I'm not wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, but he could really turn this around, and I know it's probably just a whole storyline right now that why he wasn't selected. But as far as me personally, really no one else stands out. That the only thing I'm concerned about, Robert, is kind of go around your question here, is what they're going to do with the world title and the women's championship. Is it only going to be exclusive to that one show? Are they going to bring back 2 world titles? What do you think?
Well, really, the rumor was that they were going to have 2 world titles. They haven't really stated if they're going to have two world titles, a women's title. Well, it's not really been stated, but a lot of rumors, our news sources are saying right now that they're not going to have a second world title. So maybe the champions, like the women's champion and the WWE champion Dean Ambrose, if he still is after Sunday, and we'll discuss that, may float between both shows. So I really think, and I'm hoping, because, like I've said on my show before, I don't think they need 2 world titles. Or you need the champion to float between 2 shows. But I mean, if you're going to have a world title on SmackDown and not have them float, then you obviously would need a second world title on Raw, or vice versa. But we'll get back to the question of, I mean, who do you feel got snubbed, not brought up?
You're going to have to throw some names out here, Robert. Give me some suggestions here, because no one really pops into my mind at this moment.
Really, I'm saying maybe Samoa Joe. A lot of people are like Nakamura. They felt like, why'd you draft Mojo Rawley and stuff like that? If you're not going to draft Nakamura, but like I think we said that you have to keep it NXT relevant. So I'm thinking that's a big deal. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And their time's going to come eventually. They're going to have a big debut to the main roster eventually. Like we just talked about, they've got to keep some big names down in NXT right now. Like you said, it's the hottest brand going right now. They're on tour, on live events, so they're going to have to keep some names right now, and also bring in some more people to NXT. But that's NXT. We're talking about the draft, I know, but I'm happy overall with a lot of people are not happy with the draft, but you got to understand something is that we haven't had one in so many years. They've got to establish, who's on Raw, who's SmackDown. Now, the next draft, whether it be next year or a couple of years, I'm not sure how often they're going to do it. Then there may be some shocking moments and who got snubbed then because you're so accustomed to them being on that particular show. Right now, it's just like we got to get used to them being on Raw and SmackDown first. Then the next draft next year, I assume, there may be some shocking moments who goes where.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have for this. We're going to close out this weekend of Roberts Rasslin Talk, talking Battleground 2016 and giving our predictions for the matchup. So stay tuned, guys. More Roberts Rasslin Talk right after this.